Alrighty, so hello everybody. We are here with
Steph Perez.
all right. So Steph, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you found your way into the improv scene of Miami?
Yes. So I went to school for theater here in Miami at FIU. Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers. And I started taking improv classes right after I graduated. And I really fell in love with the art form. And I was excited to learn more, but I felt like there was kind of like a cap on learning and stuff here, right? So I ended up moving to Chicago with my boyfriend at the time. We had this like awesome workshop with this guy who used to be at the theater where we all kind of learned, and he had just come back from a failed SNL audition, and that inspired me because I thought, man, I really want to see how big I can go, even if I fail. I just want to try and see, not wonder like what would have happened if I, not wonder what happens if I stay and I never move out or, move on to something bigger. So I went to Chicago. We spent 5 great years there. Left when I was 26, and I told myself I'd move back by the time I was 30. So it was like a good 4 to 5 years to put roots down and learn. And then pandemic happened.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And we had already been there 4 years. We ended up getting married. And after having like 6 feet of snow outside my apartment, it was like the most snow that they had ever gotten, I think, like in years. It was 2021. I was like, we need to go back home. You know, I missed my family. I missed the sun. And then I made myself way back over here. Restarted. I think I spent like the first 2 years kind of like focusing on my health. And then now in the last year, I've kind of launched myself back into the community with all this knowledge that I have, and I'm figuring it out as I go. So,
Wow, I really love how you're sharing that like era of your life. That's really exciting that you got to live somewhere outside of Miami. So like when I like moved to Miami, I was a kid and I've lived in Miami like my whole life.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives like kind of did the other way around. So yeah, what made Miami the right place for you to pursue and teach improv like now?
Yeah.
With that context.
I think Miami is where I'm from, and it kind of makes me sad that I still say improv in Miami, and people are like, "Tell me a joke," and I'm like, "Nope, that's not what I do." Although I am doing some stand up in my show this weekend, but it's not primarily what I do, and I think that it's a beautiful art form that is not necessarily available to Latino communities and people of color in general. I would say it's very very white art, and very American art. And I want to bring the love that I have and the transformation that improv has, even if you're not a performer. It can really change your life and your perspective as a person. So I thought, what better way than to go back home and be around my family and have all the pluses of Miami, but also be able to continue to do what I love and share that with people.
I love that. I love that you're like integrating your passion, but like also opening it up and making it accessible for everybody. So that's really nice.
That's my goal.
So now we're gonna enter the improv and Miami's culture. So it's good that you actually bring that up. That it's kind of hard to have that scene in Miami, so you're really opening it up. So this question starts like this: how would you describe the improv scene in Miami compared to other cities, and what makes it stand out?
Well, I think for me, what makes it stand out is it's so Latino, and it's just different culturally. I felt like an alien when I was in the Midwest. Even certain topics or things that as a Latino community we would find funny doesn't hit in other places. So I had to learn a lot about other communities, and it's really nice to come back here and be understood, like off the base, like we have a collective understanding of culture and all of that. But I would say that it's very siloed. In New York, they have UCB, they have Second City, they have a bunch of theaters, like smaller theaters. In Chicago, there's also the Second City, there's IO, there's a bunch of smaller indie theaters, comedy sports, and Miami really has two major theaters, and they're very small, and it's a really interesting opportunity to grow. And this is something that I've talked about with Martha, the owner of the
Where
space.
we are. We'll
La
talk
Sala,
about that. La Sala.
I've talked about how our parents were really just trying to survive, and as like first generation, uh, we're finally, because of the sacrifices that our parents have made, we can finally follow our dreams and focus more on art than just surviving. So I think that really shapes the whole community a lot differently. Like, I'm not necessarily doing this because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get seen and I'm gonna, be on the novela or like whatever. I'm doing it because I love it, and practicing my art and sharing it with others, it's a big privilege. Yeah.
Wow, that's really powerful what you shared. I relate with you on that one. Like my parents also came to this country with their dream, and I'm also like doing this little fun thing where I'm case studying Miami. I'm
Yeah.
showcasing different people like yourself, creatives who really, bring a different vibe to the scene that really is missing that. Because like when my podcast covers for context is like just like the underground scenes of Miami that go beyond like the clubbing and all the influencer stuff,
Stereotypical stuff.
the stereotypical.
I saw your
stuff.
episode about Freak House, and actually, we had a goth party for my family this past weekend, and a bunch of people went to Freak House and bought like a bunch of stuff.
And that's like support local business.
Yes, yeah,
that's such a big thing. Speaking of supporting local business, we are in La Sala, as we mentioned a little earlier. Gotta come over here and support. There's many fun events, and we'll talk a little bit more, because of course you host your different events here as well. So we'll go into that. So this question says, Miami's known for its cultural diversity. How does that influence the different kinds of improv performances that happen here?
Wow. I think we, as a community, are a lot more forgiving. If someone in improv, it's like you're improvising, right? So
Right.
you might say something a little off the cuff that's a little hot or a little this, but I think because our community was bred on novelas and just like ridiculous stuff, and we're just spicy little people, we're saying off the cuff stuff. I think that kind of gives the freedom to be more like yourself and know that, like, even if you make a mistake or you say the wrong thing, the audiences are very forgiving. And so I think that's really good versus, I went to Chicago, and it was a very liberal city, and I myself am very liberal, but it depends. It's like any extreme is tough, especially when you're doing art and you're improvising. So, if you said anything like that just wasn't what the majority thought or whatever, it could be very like, you're canceled or you're this or you're that. And although I think Miami is almost on the complete opposite, I think there are some of us that are somewhere in the middle, a little bit more moderate. And in general, the audience is just, because this is new here, I think they're a lot more forgiving, and just like their minds are just blown that we're doing it. So yeah.
I feel like Miami is like what you said. I totally agree. As a whole, Miami's just on its own vibe. We're just a party city. We are on Miami time is a thing. Like for those that don't know, I mean, this podcast really for locals, but so it's like we're always chilling.
And we're on our own
we're
time.
on our own time. We have our own time zone. So that's why it makes a lot of sense why maybe a lot of the jokes kind of just like, we don't care. We're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you said that? Well,
now that's gone.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that the city's energy and its languages, history, nightlife impacts the way people perform and respond to improv?
For sure. One of the first classes that I taught here, I teach in English. I'm bilingual. But we did the student show, and what was so funny is that even though my class is in English, the show was in Spanglish, and sometimes just in Spanish. And at one point, I think there was one scene that was completely in Spanish, and I was like, scene, and I talked to the audience, and I'm like, by the way, my class is in English, so in case you were wondering or afraid that it wasn't in English, it is. But I think because Miami is so Miami, it would only be authentic that the art and the things that we perform are are reflecting the community. So yeah, definitely the language and the tiki tiki music and the stupid things that we find funny because we've been stuck on the 826 for 5 million years.
When is it gonna be done? We don't
Never.
know. Never.
It'll never be done. So yeah, I think that's beautiful that we have like our own language and our own vibe, our own time. So that definitely leaks into everything.
I think it's also like unique, not only just to your shows, but like the location that you have your shows at, which we are in. I want to say in the heart of Bird Road. I want to say,
Yeah.
and the Bird Road Art District is a little bit more that way. Tropical Park is here, so this is like really like the hub where people could come and us locals could come hang out. Could really enjoy a really nice comedy show.
Yeah.
We'll go into depth of all the fun stuff that you do. And so the next set of questions really touch on teaching improv in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it like to teach improv in a city like Miami? Do you notice any unique qualities in people who show up and learn?
Yeah, they sometimes come in flip flops, which is not necessarily something you see in the Midwest. But yeah, people come really relaxed, really chill, flip flop shorts, the whole bang, the whole thing, and I love it. I don't try to change it. I was teaching at another theater a few years ago, and I had a guy who lived on a boat,
There you go.
and he was just wet all the time, and he would just come into class and change out of his board shorts or whatever, and I'm like, this only happens here, because he lives on a boat. And so I think people are also just like rushing from one thing to the other, and they're like, oh my god, I have to do this, I have to do that. And we have like a running joke with one of my students who's taken like 2 classes back to back, and she's like, I know you told me 7:15, but I'm really gonna be there 7:30. And I'm like, Elena, I already know, like I already know, the Miami time thing. So yeah, interesting wardrobes, and I love that. It's interesting. It keeps it lively. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely keeps it fun and
Yeah.
keeps it always like, well, what's gonna happen next?
Yes.
Are there any challenges or surprising benefits to teaching improv in such a bilingual, multicultural environment?
Yeah, I mean, the plus is that you can do jokes in 2 languages for sure. And I also think that even if someone's in the audience that doesn't understand either or, because we're so like physical and all that, they still get it. I feel like one of my biggest like influences and something I adored when I was a kid was Que Pasa USA.
Oh,
And
nice.
the fact that they had, English speaking characters, Spanish, Spanglish, and I just love that even if you don't know either language, you just watch it and there's some buffoonery going on, and I think that's always a pro.
I love that. Okay, so do you adapt your teaching style based on Miami's diverse audience and performers?
No, I don't think I adapt. I think that I'm very Miami, and I'm just really true to myself, and so I think that my approach is solid. I don't try to be anything but authentic to myself, and I do try to be very vulnerable with my students, and I try to be encouraging. And I think culturally we come from the type of culture that is like, where's your boyfriend, or like, you gained a little bit of weight or whatever. And I just try to bring that energy of like, we're growing, we're healing, we're not judging ourselves, we are having fun,
We're going to therapy.
we are going to therapy. If you can't afford therapy, just read some romance novels, whatever,
Or call a friend.
Yeah. But no, I don't change my teaching style. I think that if anything, I try to counteract what you would expect, the insecurities and things that come with being here,
Yeah, I get it.
and try to diffuse some of that to make it more enjoyable to learn.
Of course. Yeah. I totally get that. Speaking of community and creativity, improv is all about community and collaboration. How would you describe the Miami improv community?
I think very siloed right now. Everyone kind of sticks to their thing, but I think the community that is around me and the one that I've made myself a part of is growing and challenging that, and doing shows in, different places. Like I have friends that do a show in Shirley's at Gramps, like this little room that I had no idea was there. I have friends
I
that
had no idea either, and I've been to Gramps a million times.
but yeah, there's people. I mean, I have a friend James who literally rents out the basement of his building, and he just invites people to jam. It's like, I think that if we focus on establishments, they have to be focused on themselves, and they have to be focused on business and all those numbers and all those things. But I think as people, we have the opportunity to really bring community and just set each other up for success, support each other, and give each other opportunities that maybe we didn't have 5 years ago or whatever. But yeah, and the community, seems to love it and is supporting shows and selling out shows, and I think there's a need, and we're here to provide. So yeah,
right, because as Miami is changing so fast, so literally overnight, a lot of us locals like kind of feel a little forgotten. I've posted that on my story. I was like, are we feeling forgotten sometimes? Like, do we just not have like the stuff that we actually want to do? Because we can only get like golden steak so many times, or whatever funny stuff. Or the bougiest experience. You can only do that once or twice. But realistically, what is something fun that we don't have to like break the bank, drive like 40 miles away, but
sit in
actually
traffic.
sit in traffic on that 826? Still working on it.
You don't have to wear heels.
And you don't have to wear heels. Well, now the kids at the club,
they're not wearing heels.
No, they're not.
I appreciate that. I'm happy for them.
It's very low effort, chill vibes.
I love that. No,
so shout out to the kids. No,
shout out to the kids.
Shout out to the kids, the youth.
Shout out to the youths.
All right. Have you seen any improv formats, performances that have come out of Miami and that you think that could only happen here?
You know what? I don't think so, because improv is so universal that it's really like plug and play, which is really great. Once you know the fundamentals, you can kind of do anything with it. But I guess the only one I can think of is like I have a group. It's a Spanglish group called Ha 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 with a J, ja ja ja. And we do kind of like we do like a novela, and we have commercial breaks. So that I think is uniquely Latino, but not necessarily uniquely Miami. I just think that's why I love improv so much, because it really is like plug and play, and there's so much room for things to be anything, like anything is possible, which I don't feel like is limiting. So yeah.
Okay, that's really nice. Yeah, I also want to like kind of touch up on the Spanish scene. I don't know if you've seen like the teatros around, like that have their own shows. So like my father-in-law's husband, he's in the scene, and he's like a pretty prominent actor. But it's of course it's a little different. We're focusing here on improv, but like within the whole gamut of acting and everything. Yeah. He does a lot of Spanish plays, and I've been to those small like randomly in Hialeah or like close to Sojo's Dojo in the Bird Road Art District. Like that's where I've been to those shows. They're really fun.
That's nice. Yeah. I love both languages. I love and there's something really special about we express ourselves differently. I express myself differently when I'm speaking Spanish versus English, I think just the Spanish language is very expressive. But yeah, I admire it. I mean, I went to a club in Hialeah, in like a banquet hall kind of a place. I had the time of my life. I was like, it's 2 a.m, and everybody in here is lit, and everyone was like over 40, and I was like, it was called like
free parking.
I don't know. It was called like Jesus something. Like that was like I was like, is this a church during the day? It was like I swear to God, it was like something of the Jesus, and I was like, is this a club? And it was a club, and they had a bouncer in the front, and it was like this, bro. It was. I was like, I took my friend from Chicago, and I was like, you are not gonna.
This is part of the experience.
I'm like, gringo, come here. You're never gonna see anything like this ever again. And it was. We had a blast. So yeah, hilarious. Lots of guns. There was a lot of. I don't know. Hialeah things. So
and at the same time you have like factory town and everything trying to gentrify Hialeah with those high rises. That's a conversation for another day. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, Yeah, we'll put that one down for later.
We'll put it in the trunk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, back to the point.
Pin on gentrification.
How do you stay inspired and in a creative city and just so constantly changing?
Inspired. I don't think. I think this is like it's art. It's
It's art.
inspiration on its own,
Right.
and sometimes I need an inspiration to get out of reality,
I
which
get that.
nowadays is very common. So no, I mean, I look forward to it, and yeah, inspiration as far as there's inspiration everywhere. I mean, I love to people watch, because I love creating characters and things like that. But I really think that Miami has some interesting creatures, some animal, some human, some in between. And I think inspiration's all around us, including like in our own families and so many strange interactions that you can have just walking down the street. What a gift. Miami's a gift.
It's always giving.
It's giving.
It's
It's giving
giving.
you something. Something you may not want, but it's gonna give it to you anyway.
Oh my god.
So yeah.
Very good. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the wrapping up questions, the conclusion, the shout outs, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, where do you see Miami, the future of improv in Miami?
Gosh. I would like to see just a bunch of people in different age groups, different ethnicities, different interests, just popping up and doing shows and creating art and I don't know, maybe even making a living out of it. um maybe. But yeah, I see it growing, I see it reaching more and more people, and I just think that if we make it accessible and we make it if we put kindness into everything that we do in community, there's only only growth. So
That is so amazing. That's so amazing to have like that idea for Miami. The accessibility is key because Miami is not just limited to the beach, Brickell, and I don't know, Coconut Grove. Right?
yeah,
That's what a lot of people think now, the newcomers, right? But Miami is Miami-Dade County. We go all the way to Florida City, to all the way where the Hard Rock is. I mean, we got all the
like
way
right
to
there.
Doral. Like,
Yeah.
we are a huge county. We're all Miami. We're all the 305. But whatever. Some people don't think that way, but that's fine. What would you love to see more of Miami's in like the performance scene to help improv, grow?
I think I would just like investors with money to
People
reach
with money.
out to local artists. But no, I think I would love to see a city where people are not just trying to survive and are now making time to thrive a little and have a little bit of fun. But I know times are tough and things are hard, and it's a large immigrant community, and so things are a little bit harder.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to see a community that prioritizes art as one of those things that they try to make part of their daily life.
That is powerful. That's
Yeah.
really powerful because art really drives like community. We can all help each other, and just bridges a lot of gaps and heals a lot of things, which you did bring up the whole healing thing in the beginning. For someone in Miami who's curious about improv and hasn't taken that leap yet,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
I would say to follow me on Instagram at Dalestefunny. And I would just tell them to, depending on where they live, there's access to improv, all over town. I'm mostly offering classes over here in Westchester. There's places in Coral Gables. There's places in Little Haiti. And then there's like one-off. There's so many improvisers doing workshops and things. So I think, even if it's not with me, reach out. If you're interested in something, I'll put you in contact. And yeah, I just think that there's a lot of room to grow and there's room for everyone. So
there is room for everyone. Do you have it? No, this is part I can edit. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add? That maybe you have some thoughts in mind about Miami Improv, about yourself?
Keep an eye and an ear out for new things. I think Miami is gonna come back in a really big way and be something that's talked about in a fun, positive way, and not a political way, which I'm excited
Right.
for.
And I
Yeah.
get that. I get
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I want to first thank you so much.
Thank you.
And also shout out to Marta for letting us record here. Check out La Sala for all special events. You can also rent out La Sala for your own event. And what else? I think that's it. That's good.
That's it.
So it was a great conversation. You're hilarious.
Thank you.
And-
I have no other choice. This is all I got. This is my one skill.
No, I think you got many. You got many,
Thank
many
you.
skills.
Thank you.
But yeah,
But yeah.
sorry and scene.